Alright guys, welcome back to another video, and today we're here to do a comparison video on the Legion Go 2, as you guys are looking at here, and an interesting comparison and what we're going to talk about, which is the Legion Go S, the Z1 Extreme Edition. So we're going to compare these devices a little bit, and we're also going to talk about the fate of these devices, on where they kind of land in my house, what I'm going to do with these devices, and why I bought these devices to begin with. So let's go ahead and get into the video.
Gaming tech, eating brekkie is the gaming tech. Going for a brekkie is the gaming tech. Gaming techie is the gaming tech. Gaming techie.
Alright guys, so I want to start off with why I got these devices to begin with. The Legion Go S was actually the first device out of all these PC handhelds that I've gotten over the last month. And the reason that I got this one is because originally I was looking for, I have a Steam Deck OLED, which is now currently for sale. And I wanted something to, basically be an upgrade to these Steam Deck. And this is in every way an upgrade to the Steam Deck, in the sense that it has an 8-inch screen, it has FRR, it has, a much more powerful processor in here with the Z1 Extreme. There's two variants of this. I did get the $900 model, which is sitting here. And, the ergonomics, in my opinion, are actually better than the Steam Deck. I think this is more comfortable than the Steam Deck was. I was really happy with everything about this device. The only thing this device is missing is that it didn't have HDR and it didn't have an OLED screen. But everything else about this device was fantastic. It obviously originally came, they have two variants of this, one that came with Windows and one that came with SteamOS. And this is the SteamOS version, and that's what I was looking for, because I wanted something to compare and sell off my Steam OLED for. But here's what's interesting, and here's what I found here, is that when I got this device in my hands, I've loved it for, since I got it and everything. And then I got the Asus ROG Ally X that I talked about, the Xbox edition. And my intentions were, I'm going to keep this device as my Steam platform. And then I'm going to keep the Asus ROG Ally because of the Xbox full experience, and keep that as my Windows device. And if you guys watched my video from yesterday, you guys know the fate of that device and how it's getting returned. And I did a whole comparison on why, and everything, breaking down those two devices between the Legion Go 2 and the Asus ROG Ally. But that was the purpose of what I had in my head. I was like, I'm going to get the Xbox ROG Ally. I'm super excited for the full screen experience. I'm going to have two devices, one for Windows and one for Steam. And then I got them and I love them both. But then, as time went on, people started talking about the Legion Go S, and I've never seen the Legion Go 1. I've never had it. I didn't experience what it was like or anything, and I never saw this device in person, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to take advantage of the fact that I'm Best Buy. I have a 2-month return policy. I can return any of these if I want to. I'm going to go ahead and get the Legion Go 2. And with my intention on this device was to basically compare it to the Xbox ROG Ally X, because that was going to be the one that was going to make or break this device, because the Legion Go S came with Windows, and I was like, I'm going to pick which one I want to keep, and then I'll return the other one, and then I'll still have my Legion Go S sitting right here, and keep that as my go-to for Steam, and then I will keep this device as my Windows device if I end up liking it better than the ROG Ally. If not, that one will get returned. Well, what's interesting is what I found out is that not only is the Xbox ROG Ally X being returned because it's just, obviously I chose this one for Windows, but then I started dabbling into dual booting. As you guys saw, I made a tutorial on how to do that on the Legion Go S here. And I dual booted this thing, and now I have SteamOS running on this and Windows running on this. And I upgraded the SSD, did a video on how to do that as well, to a 4 terabyte drive. And once you go back to, and we'll talk about this more in a minute with the displays and stuff, but I didn't anticipate these screens, this to run SteamOS as well as it does, because it's not actually officially supported. I downloaded a nightly build 3.8 that I have installed on here. I did it, showed it off in the tutorial, and it took me a while to do boot everything, but now everything is working with Windows and Steam, and I can go back and forth, and now I just have one device to carry back and forth with me. And I didn't expect to end up where we are here today. So let's go ahead and compare these a little bit before we get into my final thoughts on that. Let's talk about the size of these devices. So of course, the Legion Go S is a 8.8-inch screen. The physical size of this thing is obviously much bigger than you see here on the Legion Go S. Now, of course, they're not humongously bigger, but this one is bigger than the Legion Go S. Of course, this one has an 8-inch screen. This one has that 8.8-inch screen, so it really is huge. And I really do like the form factor more so on the Legion Go S, to be honest, because I do think that the Legion Go S is more comfortable overall. I think it has the ergonomics that just fit in your hands a lot better. And I think the 8-inch screen is a sweet spot when it comes to, you know, portables and having this in a book bag and carrying this on planes and stuff like that. I think the 8-inch screen is a perfect size. And I do think the ergonomics of this are, in my opinion, perfect. I think it's more comfortable than the Switch. I think it's more comfortable than the Steam Deck that I had. I just think it fits in my hands really, really well. I have the grips on the back of it. Everything about this device as far as comfortability is great, and the sheer size of it. The Legion Go S is obviously a lot bigger of a device, but I will say it's still pretty comfortable. For a device that has an 8.8-inch screen, I can still fit my hands in here really well. The only thing I will say is because of how heavy this is and because of how much bigger this is, I do eventually, after like 2 hours or so, have to lean on something. I can't just sit here forever and hold this in like this forever, because I am going to get tired of my wrist. My wrist will eventually start hurting after like 2 hours of playing a consistent game. But if I do that, I can just lean back on something and put my hands on here or whatever the case may be, and I'll be perfectly fine. So for me, I can deal with the size, and I still think it's overall a really comfortable grip for my hands. I do like the ergonomics of the device. I just think this one on the Steam, the Legion Go S, is just more comfortable overall. But then you come to the displays, and that's where the Legion Go S really blew me away, and I think that's what blows everybody away. This, of course, has an HDR display, again, 8.8-inch screen. It is an OLED screen. It has VRR, just like the Legion Go S does, but this VRR goes from 30 hertz all the way up to 144 hertz. So you get 144 hertz instead of 120, and on top of that, it goes all the way down to 30 instead of 48. So games will feel even still smooth even when you're down between the 30 and 48, which is a first for an OLED screen. There's no VRR, there's no flickering and stuff like that some of these OLED have issues with VRR. So this is a really unique panel in the industry of getting all that stuff working and working really well. And once you see an OLED screen, especially at this size, it really is hard to go back to anything. Now, I think if this would have been, if the Legion Go S would have been an OLED screen and HDR, I think I would have had to dig in deeper, because then it would have been, if the screens were the same, but it was just one was an 8-inch and one was a 9-inch, and then we're talking about the Legion Go being, you know, $450 more than this device is at $1,350 versus $900, then it would have been a lot tougher of a pill to swallow, because then you're already getting almost everything except for the fact that it's 0.8 inches bigger. And at that point, of course, I wouldn't think it was worth it. I probably would have never gotten the Legion Go S, and I would have been perfectly happy with an 8-inch screen with HDR and VRR and all the stuff that I just mentioned. But it's not. This is a LCD IPS screen. Now, don't get me wrong. The screen on this device is really, really good. You can see the colors are really good. I have no complaints about the screen, but it's always about what you can't see until you actually have one. Like I said, you pick up that Legion Go and you play a screen like this for the very first time, and it really does blow you away, and it really does look amazing. And, you know, the HDR, the colors, the contrast, the black levels, like I said, once you go to it and you play games that support HDR, it really is hard to go back to anything else, because the screen is so beautiful, so vibrant, and it really is amazing. So I still think at the end of the day that everything that the Legion Go has in an 8-inch screen would probably be better for most people because of portability and comfortableness, but because that's not what we're dealing with here, I will gladly take the 8.8-inch screen, be fully immersed into that, and get all of those other features on top of it. Now, both of these devices do 16:10, so you will get the higher aspect ratio on both. You will get the 1920 by 1200 on both of these, so the resolutions will be the same. It's just that one of them happens to be an 8.8-inch screen versus that 8-inch screen instead. Battery life on both of these devices I found to be very, very similar. You're going to get about 2 to 2 hours and 20 minutes of battery life when you're running this at full power, you know, pushing the games to its limits as performance. I think the battery life is not anything that's going to make or break you in one way or the other. I think the battery life is really good on both of these devices for a handheld of this nature when you're running it on performance. And of course, if you tune it down and run indies at like 5 watts, 8 watts, 10 watts, 15, then of course you can get 5, 6, 7 hours of battery life out of this thing, depending on how this thing is running. Now, when it comes to the audio, I will have to give the nod to the Legion Go S here. Because these speakers are front firing, you do get really good audio when you're looking at it, and you do feel like the footsteps and stuff when you're playing things like Call of Duty and Battlefield are kind of to the left and right of your ear. I do think it's also loud enough. It sounds good. The only thing that sounds better than this, in my opinion, is the Xbox ROG Ally X that I talked about before, because those speakers are even better with better sound and better bass. But still, this is a really good sounding speaker, especially with the ones in the front here. The Legion Go 2 unfortunately has the speakers at the top. Even though it is really loud and sounds really good, you're not going to get the exact same immersive feel of the sounds of the footsteps coming from left and right of you, because the speakers are, of course, top firing instead of downward firing or front firing that these other ones are in the Legion Go S. So still really, really good on both. I don't think it would make or break me one way or the other, but of course, if I'm going to pick which one I would like better, I would definitely pick this one, and I would want the front firing speakers, if possible, to be on the Legion Go S. But we know why that's not a thing. It's because those controllers obviously detach, so you want the speakers to be coming out of somewhere else as opposed to here where the controllers don't detach. Speaking of controllers, we're going to talk about the unique features of this device here. And that really stands out on the Legion Go S because, again, this doesn't detach any controllers or anything. It really just is a portable handheld. What that means is that the Legion Go S gives you a lot of flexibility. You can see right here, I'm using it in a stand format, so I can stand up and I can have an Xbox controller in my hand and play games that way. Or I can take these controllers and just literally detach them just like that. And then I could detach the other one on the other side, just like that. And I can put this down, and now I can be playing games laid back on this nice screen on a plane or something like that with a nice big 8.8-inch screen and be comfortable in my hand and just play it like this. And I can use these as controllers in my hand. On top of that, you can play 2 players with this, and some games that support games that, this doesn't have a million buttons on it like the Joy-Cons do on the Switch or like Xbox and stuff, so you're missing the LB and RB and stuff like that, or the triggers on here. But you do still get enough buttons to be able to play games that either have 2, 3, or 4 buttons on here that you can play. Things like Boomerang Food, things like that's really fun to play 2 players. Things like Towerfall, one of my ultimate favorite local multiplayer games out there, play really well on here. Things like Dive Kick. There's a lot of great 2-player games that you can play on here. And stay tuned because there will be a video coming out on all these 2-player games that we'll be showing off. So stay tuned and subscribe for that on the Legion Go 2. But it really is awesome to be able to have these unique features that you can't get in other handhelds. And then on top of that, you get the FPS mode, which means that you can have this controller in this hand controlling your movement on the analog stick. And this one you put on a base that basically just sits on your desk, and it goes in this base and has an optical sensor on the bottom. And now you can move this around like a mouse, and you can play games like Call of Duty with an actual mouse to give you that precision. It does take some getting used to. I'm still terrible at it, but it really is a cool feature to be able to play in FPS mode. It's something that's really unique to the Go series on the Lenovo products that is really awesome to just use and show off, and is a really unique feature. And then we got to talk about the OS of both of these devices. Like I talked about in the beginning, the main reason I got the Legion Go S is to be my specific handheld for the Steam Deck replacement that I was looking for and running SteamOS. And the Legion Go 2 originally obviously came with Windows, and you can see right here I'm running SteamOS on it, and I'm dual booting, and I made a guide on how to do this. So I have Windows on here and the SteamOS platform, and now I can go back and forth and use this between either Windows or SteamOS, and I can have my whole entire library because I updated this to a 4-terabyte drive. So I have 2 terabytes for SteamOS and 2 terabytes for Windows, and now I only have to worry about carrying one device with me in my book bag, and I get the best of both worlds. And what I didn't anticipate, because I knew before I got the Legion Go 2 that you could dual boot it the same way you can technically dual boot this as well, and I can get Windows and SteamOS on here too. But what I didn't anticipate is because this officially came with SteamOS and it's an official partner with Valve, one of the first devices to actually do this with Valve and partner and come with it out of the box. When I installed it, the SteamOS on the Legion Go 2, I was like, this is probably not going to work as well because it's not actually fully supported. We're just installing a nightly build. But hey, because of the Lenovo partnership, I would assume, between them and Valve, this is actually working amazing out of the box. Like, you wouldn't even know it's not native. Literally, the only thing that's broken right now on SteamOS with this device is the brightness slider doesn't move up and down. But everything else, or it moves up and down, but it's not actually controlling the brightness. But everything else with the LEDs, as you can see, with everything that SteamOS offers, the updates, all the options. So it really is awesome, and it has the full SteamOS experience on here. And even things I have on here, like using all the different things that I loved on this device as well, where you can pull up things like, Techie and stuff like that and get all of those plugins on Techie working on here to do all the custom themes. You can see I have a custom theme on the Legion Go 2. I've thrown all the different plugins that I've used on Techie on the Legion Go S, and I've thrown it on here and they've all worked. So it's been really, really good so far. So like basically, now that I have the SteamOS on here and I can dual boot Windows as well with the 4-terabyte drive and have a beautiful 8.8-inch screen with OLED, with HDR, with VRR supporting all the way down to 30 hertz, what would be the point of me using the Legion Go S? Like, there is no point. Why would I have both of these devices that do something so similarly? There's no reason to own both. And that's not what I expected. Like I said, I expected to keep both of these devices and have one as my Steam and one as my Windows, but it works just as well as it does on the Legion Go S. Sure, maybe down the road I'll deal with some issues where something breaks something, but it's not worth me keeping a $900 device just on the off chance that something breaks and I'll have to wait a week for someone to fix something. So I think right now it's obviously awesome and it works really well, and I'm super happy with it. And it really is hard to go back after using the SteamOS on a HDR screen that looks this good. Now I'm going to show you guys some gameplay on both of these devices really quickly, just to give you guys an idea of the gameplay on here. Of course, the Legion Go 2 is going to be the more powerful device because it is using a Z2 Extreme. And it's obviously running that HDR beautiful display, so it is going to be a better gaming experience overall. I'm not saying that the Z1 Extreme that's on the Legion Go S is underpowered, because you only get like 10 or so frames more on the Legion Go 2 when it comes to straight up performance. It's not going to be like a vast difference, 10 to 15 usually on most cases on games, so it's not worth the upgrade just in that sense of just like, oh, Z1 Extreme to Z2 Extreme. But, you know, I'm just saying if you're looking at which one to buy and you don't have any of these handhelds, then you are going to get better performance out of the Legion Go 2 because of that Z2 Extreme, 10 or 15 frames more depending on the game. And, you know, these games are going to look great on an OLED screen on top of it. But let me show you some gameplay on both of these just so you guys get an idea.
The throw hits. Now the fun begins. Player 2 pushes the opponent into the corner. Still slugging it out here. Surprises him with a drive rush. Knockdown. Player 1 needs to use what little drive they have left effectively. What a clutch side twist there. Takes a big gamble and rips out a raw super. Rising uppercut. KO.
All right, so here we are with Battlefield, and I will say, goddamn, does this game look really, really good. Now, of course, we can lower these settings a little bit more just to get a solid 60 frames per second. Or actually, we don't even need to lower the settings. We can change FSR from quality if we want to. So there's a lot of different avenues that you can take to get this to run a little bit better. You can see it also depends on what's going on. I played before with the exact same settings, and I was getting anywhere from usually getting 45 to 50 frames per second. But now in this map right now, we're getting 42. Sometimes up to 48 like you guys are seeing here, so it really just depends on what is going on. So I'll probably adjust the settings just a little bit and adjust things down a little bit, but holy crap, does this look amazing. And I'm not paying attention, again, playing behind the camera. But it does look really good. And you also got to remember you have, 45 frames per second or even 40 on here is going to feel a lot smoother than most places thanks to VRR, which makes everything feel a lot smoother than it would be otherwise. But you can see how vibrant the colors actually are, how good this game actually looks. I freaking love this game. The kickstand is really nice and sturdy too. You could tell because it's not shifting every 5 seconds like while I'm holding the controller. I mean, it moves if it moves it on the desk, of course, or on my table. But oh, come on. And of course they score. Game is super addicting. If you guys have not heard of Tape to Tape and you love hockey, I don't know what you're doing. But it is awesome. But you can see it is running super smooth. It's working really well. Looks freaking awesome. At full resolution, at full settings, no FSR or anything like that on this game. GPU usage is at 70 or 80% right now for the GPU. Game is super fun. Did a really good job with this game, in my opinion. A lot of cool tracks. But yeah, guys, that is my overall, overall on both of these. And yeah, as you guys probably guessed it throughout this video, this is another time where I'm going to be returning the Legion Go S. Right after this video is being made, it is going back to Best Buy. Thank God for that 2-month return policy. Like I said, I did not expect to own just one device after all of this last month. I expected to own one for Windows and one for Steam, but it really doesn't make any sense to own both of these devices when I can dual boot these things. And the bigger problem is that, like, even if I didn't dual boot this and I was like, I want the fresh Steam OS experience and I don't want to have to deal with possibly things breaking later on and stuff like that, that is a possibility. But the problem is that why would I want to play a game on an LCD screen of a handheld in my hand on an 8-inch when I'm going to have an 8.8-inch screen OLED HDR sitting right next to it? Why would I make that distinction? So I'm going to find myself, and I've already found myself, always reaching for the Lenovo Go 2 because it has a better display. It really comes down to, and a slightly better performance as well. So, I mean, there's never going to be a day where I reach for the Legion Go 2 and be like, oh, I want to play on the 8-inch now. The idea before was I was going to reach for it for all my Steam games, but now having it on here and seeing how good the HDR looks, it really does make it hard to go back. Now, of course, it's going to depend on your budget. Obviously, we're talking about a $900 device versus a device at $1,350, so it really depends on what you need. But for me, I'd much rather have that device with better performance, with a better screen, with HDR support, with detachable controllers that I can use depending on where I am. I can hand it to a friend and we can play some multiplayer quickly on a train or on a plane. Much more versatile, and have the option of using Windows or Steam on here. It really is awesome. I'm really happy with the Legion Go 2, and I can't believe it took me so long to get on this train because, like I said, I didn't own any PC handhelds before this, just a Steam Deck OLED that I've had for years since it came out. Never looked at the Legion Go original one, never looked at any of those devices. I think I had an Asus a while ago as well, but sold that off because I wasn't really using it. And again, that tiny 7-inch screen that it had. But yeah, really, really happy. My decision is made. The Legion Go 2 is my preferred device, and I don't think I could ever go back or buy anything else that at least doesn't have an 8-inch screen, at least doesn't have a OLED screen on it or an HDR support going forward. So Asus, if you're listening, Lenovo, if you're listening, make sure you keep that OLED screen, make sure you keep HDR, make sure you keep VRR, and make sure you have at least an 8-inch screen whenever you guys update to the newest GPU that gives us much more performance than these devices are doing today. So guys, if you guys have any questions about anything that I've shown off or talked about in today's video, as always, leave it down below. If not, thank you guys for watching. Until next time.